My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you. Our reading this morning is not in breaking bread. Our reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Each year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover, and when he was 12 years old, they went up according to the festival custom. After they had completed its days, as they were returning, the boy Jesus remained behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Thinking that he was in the caravan, they journeyed for a day and looked for him among their relatives and acquaintances, but not finding him, they returned to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were astounded at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety." And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" But they did not understand what he had said to them. He went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. And his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus advanced in wisdom and age and favor before God and man. The Gospel of the Lord.
My dear friends, I could not have asked for better weather today for the beginning of my homily, because I'm talking about a place that's even colder. Once upon a time, there were two porcupines, and they lived way up in northern Canada where it was very, very cold. It was so cold up there that they would huddle together to stay warm. But when the two porcupines huddled together, they pricked each other. They hurt each other, so they move apart. And when they moved apart, they were cold. And so they moved together again. And when they got together again, they stabbed each other and jabbed each other. And that hurt, so they would move apart again. And on it went. They needed each other, and they also needled each other. And that's a good image for us as we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family and think a bit about family life. We need one another, and we needle one another. In a Peanuts cartoon I remember from somewhere, Lucy says to Snoopy, "There are times when you really bug me, but there are also times when I feel like giving you a big hug." And Snoopy replies, "That's the way I am, huggable and buggable." Do you know any people like that? If you live in a family, you certainly do. Come to think of it, if you live in a rectory, you certainly do. If you live with other people in any setting, you certainly do. Not only do you know someone who is both huggable and buggable, but you are someone who both needs others and needles them. The truth is this: in family life, we cause each other pain, we hurt others, and we get hurt. We experience pain. Sometimes that hurt is intentional, but I think probably most of the time it is not intentional at all. It happens even though we do not intend to hurt. You see that so clearly in the gospel passage that we heard a moment ago, this touching scene from Luke's gospel. His mother said to Jesus, "Son, why have you done this to us?" You hear the pain, the hurt in what she's saying to him. "Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety." He wasn't out to hurt them. He was simply being a 12-year-old. You know how 12-year-olds are. Well, why were you looking for me? Didn't you know? He's just not aware of the fact that he had caused them pain. You see the pain and the hurt, even in the best of families. How do we deal with the pain in our families? We can ask, what would Jesus do? And the first thing we see here is that Jesus was obedient to his parents. And for him, that must have been a sacrifice. It must have caused him some pain, as it does for all kids. It's not easy for young people to be obedient, and it gets harder the older they get. I remember somewhere from hearing this from a Jewish rabbi. He was teaching a course on the Ten Commandments, and he began by saying, now, you notice there's no commandment that says we ought to eat. There's no commandment that says we have to sleep. No commandment that says you have to have some fun. We do these things, of course, but there's no commandment to tell us this. That's because we don't need one. We enjoy eating, and we enjoy sleeping, and we enjoy having fun. We want to do them. We need commandments to tell us to do things we don't want to do. Being obedient is one of them. What would Jesus do? Jesus understood the great power that God gives to human persons when he gives them the gift of speech. He knew that words have the power to hurt, but also the power to help, the power to heal. He used words to forgive and to affirm, and he would have us go and do likewise. A language teacher was once asked, what are the hardest words for people to pronounce in the English language? And he thought about that for a bit, and he said, well, the same words that are so difficult for native English speakers to pronounce, these three: I am sorry. When we hurt people in our families, we need to say, I am sorry. And when we have been hurt, we need to say, it's okay, I forgive you. We need to use words to affirm the people we live with, to compliment them, to let them know that we care and that we love them. What would Jesus do? Jesus knew the power of prayer. And I've always felt that there's a special spiritual energy in prayers that parents make for their children, and grandparents for their grandchildren, and husbands for their wives. The prayers that come in the context of the family unit. And we need to pray in a particular way for the people who are closest to us, the people whom God has given to us to share our life with. And sometimes when parents have done all that they can for their children, the only thing left is to pray for them. And the great model, of course, is St. Monica, who prayed for her son Augustine for 20 years after he abandoned the faith he was brought up with. He was a rebellious teenager. When he got to be 16, he went his own way. She prayed for him. She prayed him back, and he became one of the greatest of all saints. And she became the model for parents praying for their children. I want to close with this quote. It's from the novelist Nikos Kazantzakis. He says this, see if you agree with this. Wherever you find husband and wife, that's where you find God. Wherever children and petty cares and cooking and arguments and reconciliation are, that is where God is. And that's the good news we affirm on this feast of the Holy Family.